Hey, what's up everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems and welcome to Monster Energy Supercross 2, where today we are playing a brand new DLC that just got released today on March 15th. It is the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the LA Coliseum for short, as everybody knows. It is the birthplace of Supercross, and they decided to make a track in-game in this stadium. Really cool concept from the guys at Milestone to give us the LA Coliseum, because obviously we haven't raced there on a professional scene since 1998. They've had like X Games and other things come in there, but yeah, the LA Coliseum is just an absolutely iconically historic figure when it comes to Supercross. That it's a shame that they don't go there anymore. Like, I get, you know, the newer stadiums and you know, kind of the sketchiness of the area that the stadium's in and so forth, but a little bit of a bummer that, you know, the place basically where Supercross started is no longer a place where Supercross is raced. But yeah, the LA Coliseum is where Supercross got its birthplace, essentially. Back in 1972, they decided to hold an indoor motocross event called the Super Bowl of Motocross that was won by Marty Tripes. And it was in this LA Memorial Coliseum that he was able to accomplish that. And from there, the sport kind of took off. They had a year off, basically, and then came back in 74 with a series for Supercross to be ran in. And then from there, it was the rest is history, as you guys know. So, yeah, like I said, really cool concept of the Milestone guys to get this in-game. There's a hunch from the community that this was going to be in-game at some point. People had kind of looked into the files of the game and seen that there was a slot reserved for LA Coliseum. So obviously that's what this was, and now they have it as DLC. It's $4.99 on Steam. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the same on Xbox Marketplace and, you know, PlayStation Store and things like that. So that's not, you know, a terribly tall asking price for a cool little add-on to the game here. And I definitely think it's really cool. Like I said, the Coliseum also was the first ever Supercross race I ever went to. Was the 1998 race at the Coliseum. Also the last time they went there, as I mentioned. And yeah, like, it's kind of, to me, them putting this in game, it's really similar to when, you know, you play like the new Formula One games or things like that, and they put legendary tracks in the game. Like, even in I think Assetto Corsa, it is, they have like the 1960 version of Monza and things like that you can play. And so that's, like, to me, really cool that they include these old tracks that don't necessarily exist anymore. And in this case, it's an old venue that they don't race at anymore as part of the game now, because it's just like a bit of a nostalgia trip for us Supercross fans to be like, oh my god, this is the Coliseum. Like, this is the birth of Supercross right here. And it's really, really cool that we get to play it. As for the track that it included here, I'm not sure if I'm like the biggest fan of it. It's not very flowy. It's, I guess, a little bit like they tried to take a page from old Supercross and not have like many rhythm lanes. Like the Supercross jumps, or the Supercross triples, I should say, are like kind of almost like ramped out a little bit more. And then there's like a lot of tables and flat straightaways and stuff like that. And I mean, even the last time that they've raced in this stadium for Supercross back in 1998, it wasn't really the same Supercross we know now with like the real cookie-cuttered, you know, tracks, and like they just kind of take the same jumps and carry them over week to week and things like that. So I guess in that way, it's kind of a cool concept that they didn't try to make a modern-day Supercross track in the stadium. But as you can tell, like, the actual track layout is pretty bland and simple and so on and so forth. So it's you know, 2 and 1 half dozen in the, or 12 and 1 half dozen in the other, essentially. You know, it's if you like this kind of stuff, if you like the easier layouts, then this is kind of a cool nostalgia trip, as I said. One thing I hope that they will do, which I'm not expecting this to be the case at all, but maybe they will, is allow us to use the track editor in the Coliseum. I think that'd be really, really sweet. I was actually just working on a pseudo replica of the 98 race that I went to the other day. And yeah, you can go up into the stands in the stadiums now, which is, you know, kind of part of this whole going up the peristyle and out into the parking lot area and then back down into the stadium thing. But you don't actually go out of the stadium when you do that up into the stands thing. So if they let us edit this and make custom tracks on it, that would be so cool. But I'm not going to hold my breath, because they don't let us edit, you know, the regular stadiums anyway and put tracks inside of those. So just a cool thing that I figured if they could add, that'd be really neat. But I'm not expecting it. I'm just gonna take this and be happy with it. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is just a really cool DLC. Like the Coliseum, it's just such a legendary, like it's really just like a legendary landmark at this point. You know, now they've hosted the World Cup, they've hosted the Olympics. It's the birthplace of Supercross. It's where the Los Angeles Rams have been playing their games recently. It's where the Oakland Raiders used to play their games. It's where like the LA Express and all these other NFL or XFL and AFL teams used to play and stuff like that. So legendary venue. Obviously the USC, University of Southern California Trojans football team plays at the Coliseum now. And for those of you that like geographically don't know like where this is, obviously it's in Los Angeles, but I mean it is about as close to downtown LA as you can get. It's just a hop and a skip across the what freeway is that? The I-10 that runs just south of Los Angeles proper, like the actual city, and you just go across that highway and boom, you pretty much have ran into the Coliseum. But you've also ran into the USC campus right there too. That's where the campus is. It's right next to the stadium. And yeah, I don't know the area that well because I haven't gone to a Supercross there since '98, so I haven't been there since '98. But having been in downtown LA and stuff like that, I know exactly where the stadium is because I've seen it. And you know, since I've kind of grown up, that's where I know it is now and all that business. But yeah, it's like right outside of LA. It used to be like a really nice place to go, and I'm not saying it's like a terrible place now, but it's getting old. And as most of you know, when it comes to old stadiums, like there's sometimes a little less than fun to go to, just because the facilities aren't as updated, new, and nice. And then because it's on a college campus, they didn't really do much great things when it came to parking for the stadium as well. So just a couple things that make it almost impossible to host sporting events, much less a big Supercross in anymore. But I don't know, maybe one day they'll go back just to like have like a final send off for the Coliseum. As it is the birthplace of Supercross, it's something that I feel the sport in general kind of holds to maybe a little higher standard, and gives it a little bit more of that extra excitement factor behind it. But yeah, Coliseum, just cool stuff, man. This is, for me, being a big-time Supercross, motocross fan, and like an enthusiast of the sport in general, so I know a lot of the history behind it. The fact that we get to play a video game of the Coliseum now and race a Supercross on it, like that's pretty cool to me. I don't know. I feel like it'd just be the same thing, like I said, as if you're driving a 1960 Formula One car on the old Nürburgring when it used to extend over the GP track and things like that. Just kind of cool stuff like that. Now what they should do, since we haven't had a race in the Coliseum since, is drop a DLC with some old two-strokes. Let's race like a 1986 Honda 250 and just get those massive Rick Johnson and David Bailey vibes going, and we'll just have a lovely race in the Coliseum. That would be really cool, I think. I know everybody cries for the two-strokes. Get the two-strokes back in game. We got to have the two-strokes, and I get it. Like, I'm a proponent of two-strokes too because I own one. But even if they just did something like that where they dropped like a legendary bike, obviously they'd have to probably collab with Honda or something like that to get it in game. But it'd be kind of a neat addition to have the nostalgia of the Coliseum and ride an old, even if it's not a Honda, even if they get an old Yamaha or an old Suzuki or just anything, just old two-stroke with, even if they got one with less suspension travel. Could you imagine if they gave us one with only the 6-inch, dual shock suspension on it, just like Marty Tripes had to basically win the race on back in the day? Even that would be kind of fun to try to challenge yourself on a track like this and see if you could hit all the jumps. They weren't hitting Supercross triples back then necessarily. They were hitting a bunch of ski jumps and, like little ramped out jumps and stuff like that. But still would be kind of fun to try it out. I don't know. Yeah, this is cool. This rhythm section is like kind of annoying because I can't decide what I want to do in it. I either triple over the table, and then in that sense I kind of like triple on off into the next one, but it doesn't feel that fast, or I just kind of like do this weird thing where I'm the whole time just bouncing off of the jumps, and that doesn't feel fast either. So I can't figure it out. try to get into it a little bit more and figure out if I can make it a little bit smoother. But as I said, the rest of the track's so standard, so kind of old school Supercross. Like I said, there wasn't, you know, back in the day, I would say probably about the McGrath era is where things started turning, but they used to almost build Supercross tracks, like old Supercross tracks, similar to what you can expect out of watching an Endurocross now. They tried to give you obstacles in a Supercross that would kill momentum instead of create rhythm racing. So nowadays they try to make rhythm sections on purpose that are going to be like smooth and flowy. But back in the day, they used to have like 2 peaked out singles and then like a wall jump tabletop into a small whoop section and then like a ski jump into like a tabletop into a corner. So they just did everything that they could to like break up the flow that you had, the momentum and the speeds that you had through a straightaway. And then McGrath came around, and they were also kind of making a fundamental change to Supercross anyway, just because the bikes were getting better and a little faster and suspension was getting better and stuff like that. But I felt like McGrath era was when they started making this push into like less ski jumps and more like ramped out triple faces and you know, actual rhythm lanes that guys had to get timing down through and things like that. And now, you know, Supercross landscape has changed completely. Now you never would see tall peaked out doubles and wall tabletops in the middle of rhythm lanes and things like that. It's usually just your standard 3-foot, 5-foot singles, your standard tabletops, and they just kind of try to throw all those into different areas of the track now, which I think kind of sucks, but you know, to each their own. I think some people maybe like the newer stuff as well. But I'd like to see a little bit of a fundamental change, if I'm honest. And like I said, just kind of cool to have an experience like this to try an older version of a track. Like I said, I don't think this actually replicates anything particularly. I think they just kind of threw a loose blueprint down and built some jumps that they thought would be kind of cool on it. And look what we have here. It's LA Coliseum in Monster Energy Supercross 2. So thanks for checking out this video. A little late release here on this Friday, but I wanted to get it out as it came out today. And I appreciate you guys watching as always. And I'll see you guys in all of our future videos. But Kellen here on Start Your Systems saying so long for now.